All right, we're about to dive into a piece of history that was almost completely forgotten. It's this incredible story of faith, of conflict, and ultimately of survival. And it challenges so much of what we think we know about the ancient world. The craziest part? The whole story comes to us from these tiny, fragile scraps of papyrus found on a remote island in Egypt. Just listen to this. This one sentence is from a desperate letter written over 2,400 years ago. And it's our way into this whole mystery. It's talking about a temple that was basically erased from the history books for centuries, a temple that was built in a place that completely upends what a lot of people thought was possible. Okay, so to really get what's happening here, we need to picture the scene. We're heading to a pretty unique spot, Elephantine Island. Think of it as this little rocky outpost right on the edge of a massive empire. So, picture this. It's the 5th century BCE. You're standing at the very, very southern border of Egypt. And at this time, Egypt is actually part of the huge Persian Empire. So this island, it's way more than just a chunk of land in the Nile. It's a key military fort. It's a busy trade hub. It is literally the line in the sand between the empire and the Nubian kingdoms to the south. So, who's manning this super important outpost? Judean mercenaries. Yep, you heard that right. These were soldiers, a whole community of them, with their families, a long, long way from home. Their job? Guard the frontier for the Persian king. I mean, these people were living right on the edge of their known world. Okay, but this is where the story gets really interesting. It's not just about the soldiers. It's about what they built for themselves. They created a sanctuary, a place of worship that kind of broke all the rules for that time. Get this, hundreds and hundreds of miles away from Jerusalem, which was supposed to be the center of their faith. They built their very own temple to their god, Yahweh. And we're not talking about some little backyard shrine. Their own letters talk about a big building with a cedar roof and 5 huge stone doorways. The fact that this place even existed, well, it forces us to rethink a huge part of ancient history. And it wasn't just the building that was unique. Their religious practices were too. The papyrus scrolls showed they were performing animal sacrifices, right? That's a ritual that was really supposed to only happen at the temple in Jerusalem. But wait, there's more. They also swore oaths to a deity named Anat Yahu. Now, some scholars think this means they might have worshipped Yahweh with a female partner or consort. It's just incredible evidence for a much more diverse set of beliefs than you might expect. And you know, for a good long while, things seemed to work out. For decades, this little community wasn't just surviving out there on the frontier. They were actually living side by side with their Egyptian neighbors who worshipped a totally different set of gods. In fact, we can pinpoint a moment that really shows this period of, let's call it official tolerance. The year is 419 BCE. A letter shows up and it proves just how plugged in this community was to the whole Persian system. This right here, this is from the famous Passover papyrus. It's an official order sent from the Persian king himself, Darius II. And it's basically telling the Judean soldiers how to properly celebrate the festival. Just stop and think about that for a second. The empire wasn't just putting up with their religion. They were actively making room for it. It's like they were getting official time off from their army duties for a religious holiday. That's a big deal. But you know how these things go. That peace was pretty fragile. There were tensions bubbling right under the surface, and it all centered on a rivalry between 2 temples on this one tiny island. So, on one side, you've got the Judean temple to Yahweh, and on the other, you have this ancient Egyptian temple for the god Khnum. He's the one with the ram's head, the god they believed controlled the Nile's floodwaters. For a while, they were just neighbors, but their fundamental beliefs, well, they were heading for a major collision. And the conflict really boils down to this clash of beliefs. So the Judean soldiers would sacrifice rams in their worship, but for the priests of Khnum, the ram was a sacred animal. So every single sacrifice the Judeans made was seen as a terrible offense. On top of that, the Egyptian priests were planning to expand their temple, and that expansion was going to push right into the Jewish temple's courtyard. These 2 holy sites, with just the main road between them, were now locked in a serious competition. Well, all that simmering tension, it finally exploded into violence. In the year 410 BCE, this rivalry hit its breaking point, and it was devastating. And those ancient letters, they spell out exactly what happened, and it's pretty chilling. The priests of Khnum bribed a corrupt Persian official, a guy named Vidranja. He agreed to just look the other way. Then his own son, Nephion, led a group of Egyptian troops. We're talking actual soldiers here, not just an angry mob. And they attacked. they completely razed the temple to the ground and carried off all the gold and silver vessels. The destruction was just total. You can imagine, for this little Judean community, it was a massive trauma. The scrolls tell us they went into mourning for 3 whole years. They were fasting, praying, wearing sackcloth, all signs of the deepest grief you could show. They'd lost their sacred home. But here's the thing. They didn't give up, not even close. After 3 years of mourning, this heartbroken community decided to fight back. But not with swords or spears. They fought back with words. So in 407 BCE, the community's leader, a man named Yedonia, drafts this petition, and he sends it all the way across the empire to a guy named Bagoas, who was the Persian governor of Judea. In the letter, they explained everything that happened, and they made one simple, powerful plea. Let us rebuild our temple. And the amazing thing is, it actually worked. They were clever about it, too. They didn't just write to the governor of Judea. They also sent a copy to the sons of Sanballat, the governor of Samaria. And unbelievably, they both said yes. They got official permission from 2 different powerful figures. The official response came back, and the instructions were crystal clear. They had permission to rebuild their temple, quote, on its site as it was formerly, right back where it belonged. It was a huge victory for them, really a testament to their persistence. But the story doesn't quite have the Hollywood ending you might hope for. Yes, they rebuilt the temple, but it didn't last very long. By about 350 BCE, only a few decades later, it seems the temple just wasn't being used anymore. And eventually, the land it stood on was swallowed up by the expansion of the Temple of Kanaum. The little Judean sanctuary on the Nile just disappeared again. And really, that's what's so powerful about these discoveries. This entire, incredible world with its soldiers, its unique brand of faith, the political drama, the destruction, the fight to rebuild, all of it survived because of these flimsy pieces of papyrus. It's just proof that history is always way more complex and messy than we think. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If this one tiny community on a remote island can completely change how we see a part of history, what other lost worlds are just sitting out there, waiting to be found?